simple. This is starting like a beer place. No, I didn't come up here to my so can't stay. No, I will never ever fade. It's the ever soldier. I'm in the history of it. Soldier, I've been soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt. Soldier, I've been soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt. I am a soldier for the army of the Lord, moving forth by the mighty omnivores. This serious business, we die for our community. This serious business, we living for this unity. The bright race, raising up the brighter legacy. Bright power, ushering in supremacy. We're spoken now, must be held as future prophecy. By the power of army, we will hold the power seat. We tuned into mentellect, and yes, we heard the call. We raised up the name of Amen, so the beast can fall. We move as one-on-one path, yes, we are the Lords. Our minds focus steady motion towards the board. Soldier, I'm in soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt. Soldier, I'm in soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt. By the power of Amen, we embody the Amen beings, moving in the future with a mind of clarity as with Amen soldiers. Lay down law and order, building a foundation with their bright four corners, masterminds are sticking high, souls appear fire. We only here to manifest the true mind power. Channel mind is a daily weapon, thoughts of transmission, equal fully loaded ammunition. Soldier, I'm in soldier, I'm in soldier. I'm in soldier, soldier, I'm in soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt. Soldier, I'm in soldier. Put in the work, my body's always dirt.
All right. And headdress regalia, our true cultural headdress. Our cultural headdress. The real American indigenous Indians here in North America. Here we go. We live again. High and Mighty Talks with me, Nuben Menkares. Good evening to everyone. We live again with another episode. Just sharing my thoughts, which again, my lovely wife is supposed to change our tagline to High and Mighty Thoughts, which it will be changed. So, but there's talks and thoughts, there's, we share communication and whatnot. And I just want to touch on a few things. I'm not going to be on here too long. I always like to get straight to the point. I don't like doing them 2-hour joints and whatnot, them 2-hour podcast. I'm just adjusting and primping and whatnot, doing some last minute primping, making sure my feathered head crown is straight and everything, just making sure everything is looking good on me, because these things are not easy to adjust and put on. They're beautiful, but we're going to eventually make our own. We have to order these things. But anyway, let me start off. In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, in Amen we trust. In Amen we think, and in Amen we continue forward forever. How many people we got? We got people in the chat? We got people in the chat room? How many people we got in the chat room? Is the chat room full? Hello? Lovely wives, is the chat room full? Yeah. While my lovely wife checks the chat room, I'm trying to give people a chance to get in. I know sometimes they say I'll set up a time and I'll start a little late, but, children and, house stuff and things like that. It's not always easy to go live. Like I said, this is an organic broadcast. This is an organic, podcast. And, you know, I always wanted to, you know, show that, you know, everything it's not a Hollywood production, you know. This is just me on camera, my production team, my wives, you know, children in the background. We live our lives. We live, you know, like a community, family, and things like that. And we got family things and stuff like that. My lovely wife just brought me some water, much needed. Thank you, love. And my coffee. Y'all know me. Gotta have the water, gotta have the coffee. So, but we checking how many people we got in there? 22. People still coming in? All right. Well, yeah. What we usually start off with, before we feel comfortable with going forward. How many people we want in the chat room? 30? 25. How many in there now? 19. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to just let people come in the room and whatnot. We ain't waiting on nobody. I'm going to just go ahead and start it. You people that's going to come in, you know, y'all got to have to be the Johnny come latelys and whatnot. Y'all should have been waiting around. See, that's another reason why I don't start on time, because even when I start late on time, you would think I would have a rush of people who's sitting here waiting to come into the room. Okay, jump to 25. All right, there you go. Y'all must have heard my thoughts. All right. So I'm going to touch on these things right here. One of the things I'm going to touch on, which continuously is a thorn in my side, the thing that's been a thorn in my side, you know, and it seems like now that this has become a thorn in my side, people are doubling down on this. And that is referring to so-called black people in America as African American. I cannot stand that false identification. We are not from Africa, and to call us African Americans and make it seem as though we are immigrants who were brought over here in what the white man calls forced immigration. Forced immigration. They make up these false titles all the time and change history to how they want it to be. And you know, the sad thing about it is black people just go along. They just go along and accept it, and they teach their kids this nonsense. The biggest false identification, the biggest one that we still live with today, right along with, you know, African American. You know, my other pet peeve is calling our people black people, referring to us as black people. Like I said, that is a false identification, but it has been programmed into the minds of so-called black people, the copper-colored people, the bronze people, because that's really what color our skin is. I hate to have to keep hammering that into the heads of only a chosen few people that are going to get it, but the copper-colored people, the bronze-skinned people, were spoken of as the real Americans in the 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary. I'm so glad that the, you know, Caucasians left that bit of evidence around to debunk all their lies about us coming from Africa and us being African Americans and black people. These are all false terminologies and false identifications, and it makes me cringe because we're not African. We are not African. The so-called black people here in America are not African. I'm talking about those of you who got family going back past slavery, who've been here in this country, and even those of you who are of West Indian descent. Notice the term West Indian, right? West Indian. We are the real American indigenous Indians, and this is our headdress. These are our, you know, head displays, garments, and things like that. What you call an American Indian culture, which they now call Native American culture, you know, they hijacked American indigenous culture and now call it Native American culture, is our culture. That's our real culture. Like I said, proof of this has been coming out, how people were forced into declaring themselves Africans and Negroes in order to be left alone by the government of this country. The law enforcement, the local law enforcement, how they forced our people to call themselves Africans and black people in order to be able to get on voter rolls and things like that in the early 20s and 1910s. They were forcing us to calling ourselves black, African American, so saying that we African, excuse me. They were forcing the whole African narrative on our people. You see, and I told you why that was, is because You know, the Caucasians, one of the first places they conquered was Africa, the Greeks and the Romans. And this also explains why a lot of people who were enslaved, a lot of bronze men, so-called black men who were in slavery, the Caucasian slave masters would give them Greek and Roman names. You would hear names like Ulysses, Achilles, Hercules, Apollo. They would have bronze men, they would call so-called black men those names, right? Now, that was a nod to what? That was a nod to them referring to so-called black men, giving them names of Greco-Roman gods, because they always wanted to be reminded that they owned the true supreme people. That's why they gave them names like Hercules and Apollo and all these other names like their property. You see, they raised us to be property here in this society, to the point whereas black people, so-called black people, think like property here, and thus the people who own the property, who still own you mentally, can call you black people, and you don't even say to yourself, hey, wait a minute, my skin is not black. Why am I being referred to as a black person? And my skin is not black. My skin is that bronze copper colored description of the original Indians, that means the original Americans who are Indians, indigenous people here in the Americas in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Like I said, I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't care. I'll keep sounding like a broken record and keep touching on this along with other things to drum this into our people's head that we are not African. And for them to call us African American and not have us benefit in what a so-called African or a so-called immigrant is supposed to benefit from in this country is a slap in our face. You call us African Americans, but they treat us like indigenous people. I told you, whenever immigrants come, whenever colonizers, gentrifiers come into your land or into your neighborhoods, they always treat the local people like shit. They always treat the local people like shit. So you're going to tell me that the people who are here in America, the Caucasian people that treat our people bad, who constantly work against us, undermine us here, who have been undermining us, who've constantly had this beef with us, you're going to tell me this is an immigrant on immigrant thing? This is a European/African problem? Is this a European-African beef? No, I don't think so. Because I've seen Africans who come here from North Africa. I've seen tribal African people that come here who don't get treated the same way we get treated. In fact, Muhammad Ali once told this story, the great Muhammad Ali once told this story that back in the 50s or the 60s, when I think he was starting out his boxing career, he had just won I think the Olympics, something like that. But he was won a big match, and he tried to go into establishment, a Caucasian-owned establishment, a European establishment. And again, I refer to Caucasians here in America as what they are, Europeans. I don't call them Americans because they are not Americans. They're not. I don't care who get mad about it. They are not Americans. They're Europeans in America who are citizens of the United States. Thus, the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of who the real Americans are, the first Americans, which is us. We're the only real Americans here. The only really real American indigenous people. And this country knows that. The government knows that. They lying to our people, calling us African Americans. That's a slap in our face. That needs to be corrected ASAP. But anyway, he told this story. Muhammad Ali told this story about how he was going inside of a restaurant or like a burger place or whatever, and they wouldn't let him come in. They said, no Negroes allowed. We don't take y'all in. No Negroes allowed. He said, but then two Africans came in wearing all that African stuff and whatnot. And, you know, he said the Africans was darker than him and everything. You know, he was wearing all this African. They probably had a tribal look to them. And they came in with all their African garments on and everything, robes and everything. You know, they let them go in and eat. He said, they not Negroes. They can go in. So what does that tell you? This is a true story. You can look this up. I'm not making this up. Muhammad Ali said that he didn't understand at the time that the real discrimination is against the American indigenous people, the American Indian, meaning us, black, so-called black people, the copper-colored people are the real American Indians who are being discriminated against. This, again, is a immigrant/indigenous beef. That's what black and white is. Indian versus immigrants. Indigenous versus immigrants. White and black. White represents the immigrant and black represents the indigenous, the original people. That's really what that means. So, y'all should make your disdain for the term African American known. You should not want to be referred to as African American. What really fits us is American Indian. That's what really fits us. Because the word Indian is another way of just saying indigenous. American indigenous people. That's what fits us. Not black, not African American, American indigenous people of bronze descent. You see, or bronze, if you want to make reference to our skin color, but we're the only ones who can refer to ourselves as American Indians or American indigenous people or just American. We're the only ones. Caucasians can't refer to themselves that way because they came from Europe. You cannot change your nationality when you move to another place. This country was inhabited by us first as the Mayans, and then we spread. Like I said, I'm not going to get too off into that, but I can't. The African American thing by this time should make us cringe, just like black should make us cringe. Anybody that's still okay with that? These are people who are, behind times. They caught up in, whatever they still caught up in the 20th century. They still got that slave mentality. If you still referring to yourself in 2023 as African American or black, you still got that slave mentality. Especially after you done heard all this truth that's out about us being the true American Indians. We need that real warrior soul to come out of our people, that American warrior soul, that American indigenous warrior soul to come out and claiming who we are as the real rightful American Indians, not the Native Americans, the American Indians. Again, don't even refer to yourself as Native American, because that's a terminology that the Caucasians made up, and they was calling themselves Native Americans because they were trying to replace us, as they always do. They've been trying to replace us and make themselves the people of this land. You see, the Europeans have been trying to replace us, the Europeans, I said it, and make themselves the true Americans, which they are not. You see, remember I brought up the whole thing about the copper tone tans and whatnot, how they be trying to get on the beach and get the copper tone tans. That's them trying to be us, man. Meanwhile, they trying to push you to being black. And y'all sitting up here accepting this, just like you accept an African American. That's a slave mentality. Allowing people to refer to you as African American is a slave mentality if you accept it. We are American Indians, American indigenous. I said it. And we are the copper colored, bronze skinned people, not black. So, just a reminder. Just a pet peeve I got. Let me address something else. Black people, so-called black people, helping to erase themselves from history? Yes, they are. You know how you know? Because what is black people? What is black people? There's no such thing as black people. I told you before, when people are sitting up here calling out their nationality, be it Italian, German, French, Irish, whatever, Chinese, Japanese, whatever they calling themselves, Ugandan, what the people from Africa who actually have a nation or a country to claim, then they get to us here in America and they go black. What is that? What is black? Black is nothing. You might as well say blank. Now, if you got a bunch of blank/black people who have no nationality, who have no name, who have no language, who have no culture, then of course anything these people are going to create is like it's being created within a vacuum. Anybody can just suck it up and take it for their own. Thus, like what you see going on with the music that we created here in the society. You see how they're gradually trying to, your Europeans who run these systems, who run this media systems, slyly trying to, take hold of and take credit for our musical accomplishments here, right? Why music? Because music denotes culture. Music denotes culture. So you see these Europeans trying to take credit along with some of these other people who, like Tariq Nasheed calls tethers, trying to take credit for our accomplishments here, all right? Jazz, R&B, soul, hip hop, rap music, whatever you want to refer to it as. You have people trying to take credit for our things. You got the Latinos trying to claim they 50-50 hip hop with our people. Soon it'll be, oh, y'all niggas didn't create nothing. That's next. Y'all niggas didn't create nothing. Y'all got it from us. But nobody asked the obvious question, because you got a lot of black ass kisses out here who, you know, maybe they got themselves a little Latino girlfriend or they cool with Latinos and whatnot. I'm not talking about the black Latino. I'm talking about you white looking and Latinos and you questionable ones with the straight hair. You guys, you sitting up here trying to, you know, and for the Latinos who keep it real and tell the truth and say, you know, this is black people's music, so-called black people, or what I call American Indian music, American indigenous music. Rap is American indigenous music. Jazz is American indigenous or American Indian music. Hip hop, blues, all that's American Indian music. Our music from our ancestors who came from South and Central America as the Aztec and the Mayans here into America. The real Americans. From even the word American comes from us. So you see these people trying to take credit for our musical accomplishments, because musical accomplishments is, again, part of pop culture. You know, people are known by their music. You got Italian music, you got French music, you got German music, you got all kinds of music. You got that polka music. You got all these types of music that are connected to these people. But then when they get to rap music or hip hop, oh, it's just American music. Yeah, you're right. It is American music. You're right. It is American music. I agree with that for the real Americans. You see, yeah, hip hop, R&B, jazz is American music. But see, you got to get it in your mind that American means us. It does not mean Caucasian people. It does not mean Asian people. It does not mean that all of these people who are trying to fasten American onto their name. They have a nationality already. White people can trace their nationality back to Europe. We cannot trace our nationality back to Africa. Don't buy into that lie about the transatlantic slave trip. That slave ship, that's already been debunked. That's a lie. All right. They didn't have the technology to transport no millions of people. And like I said, from the face point, it didn't even make any sense. People lied because they want to take, control of the term American. I told you when Europeans came over here, they wanted to start a whole new life. They saw this lush, lavish continent of America, and they came here and they forgot all about their European existence. They forgot all about that. So they took hold of our land. This is our land. They took millions of acres, and I'm going to get on that about reparations. I got to speak on that because a lot of people claim, you so-called black people, of course, the indigenous people don't deserve reparations. But I'm going to get on that in a second. But, our people are helping to erase their own history because you keep calling yourself black people. You erase your own history by calling yourself black people. Let me take a sip of this coffee. Shout out to my wife. She made a good cup of coffee. Nothing like a joint and a nice cup of coffee. A tall glass of water. Like I said, you're erasing your culture. Like we allowed people to take our American indigenous culture. We allowed these people to force us up out of our American indigenous culture. I told you, if we're not the real American Indians, then why was these Caucasians going around at gunpoint and all over the country, people that work for the census and things like that, people that work for government agencies, people that work for state agencies, when they were taking the census, they wanted us to declare ourselves as black or Negro, not black, Negro, right? Negro or colored. These are where these terminology came from because that was their way of erasing the American Indian people, the American indigenous people. You see, they always show you these different pictures of these mongoloid looking, mixed race, straight haired, so-called Native Americans, or what they call Indians. Those people represent those who came and mixed in with us. If you look at how they originally looked, you see they have our skin complexion with straight hair. A lot of them have our skin complexions. That's the Asian and bronze mix. And some of the people, the women were straightening their hair with something called bear grease, which is the equivalent of what's called pomade is today. But again, we are erasing that rich heritage and culture, our American indigenous culture, by allowing people to call us black and African American. What is black? See, it's easy to steal something from a black person. Who was a black person? That's a non-existent person. You can't take nothing away from Italians because they got their own Italian music. You see, I was watching this guy earlier today, this mob guy. He does his channel, and he's talking about he loved rap music and whatnot. His favorite rapper is Eminem. You see, even how these Caucasians do, they always, like I said, they can never be really true to the founders and the originators and the creators of our art that they love. You see, they can't never be true that the American indigenous people are the ones who started or created hip hop and rap music and jazz and R&B. But we need to stand up for that. We can't expect nobody to gatekeep our culture. You see, the same way they got us up out of our American indigenous culture and got us calling ourselves African and putting on damn stupid kente cloth and mud cloth and talking all that Shango shit and all that. Man, it's the same way they're going to try to ump us up out of rap music and hip hop. Same way. It's the same finesse. Same thing. And what y'all do, y'all sit on your thumbs, y'all sit on your hands and nobody say nothing about it. You sat on your thumbs, you sat on your hands, and you didn't say nothing about it when you allowed people to call us African American. Y'all should put it, more people should be putting an end to that, because that's a lie. Or calling us black people, because again, that gives people the ability to come up and just take anything. What is black culture? I asked that question. What is black culture? I know what Italian culture is, French culture, German culture. What is black culture? Black culture is American culture, because the only real Americans are bronze, copper-colored people falsely being called black. The indigenous people of the land are the people of the land. Everybody else is just goddamn guests. Just like when that white guy said Eminem, look, man, Eminem is a guest in the house of hip-hop. Lord Jamar, he spoke on that a long time ago. But people, you got a lot of Negro apologists sitting up here talking about, hip-hop is for everybody. And yeah, well, they didn't agree with Lord Jamar. You got a lot of raccoons out here. A lot of raccoons out here because they feel like they friends with Caucasians, with the Europeans, and they friends with the Asians or whoever else who want to be rappers. That's fine. They could be rappers. I ain't telling Eminem and them they can't rap. You see, but let's not go crazy and talking about they the best rappers or, and this guy got a right to his opinion like Eminem. But that's the same mindset of the people who didn't like the music, who didn't like rock and roll when we created rock and roll, which is American music, us. Stop thinking of American as Europeans. They are not Americans. They're not Americans. They're Europeans. Don't let them forget their goddamn past, because they sure don't let you forget yours. Don't let them forget their true heritage and where they really come from, because they damn sure don't let you forget yours. Even if they got to make up some false heritage about us coming from Africa on slave ships. That's nothing but a slave tale, man. I ain't mean to get so hyped up about that, but when I say it just boils my blood, because I don't like lies. I don't like lies, and what I don't like even more is our people accepting lies. You can't stop a liar from lying. Right? They're going to lie regardless. You can't stop a liar from lying. But what you can stop is the people from accepting the lie. See, the lie only means something when the people are willing to accept the lie. They had to get you so-called black people, the bronze, copper colored, the real Americans. They had to get the indigenous people to accept their lies. Y'all from Africa. Y'all black. You Negro. You see, they had to get you to accept that. You see, and y'all accepted it. You accept the lie. And you got people who are willing to take a fee, like I told you, your scam Africanists who are here to promote the lie for them, to double down on the lies. These people are despicable all around because of their lies. Again, I don't care about what color you are. What I care about is the lies that you tell. I don't care if you're black or white, because this is not about hating on anybody. I don't want this to come off that way, because I'm passionate about that. But what I don't like is lies, because you got some Caucasians who will tell the truth. You got some Europeans who will tell the truth. They will tell the truth. They'll let you know, yeah, y'all the real American Indians. Y'all black, so-called blacks. You are the real American Indians. You are the real Americans. The word American comes from us. And they took they took our shit. That's all. They just took our shit. Right? Like they're trying to take more stuff from us. Our neighborhoods, our country, our music, our culture, everything. Eminem. That's like when these Caucasians, they didn't like rock and roll when the first people was doing it, like Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Ike Turner, shout out to Ike Turner who made the first rock and roll song, Rocket 88. You know what I'm saying? They didn't like it when we was doing rock and roll, but then when white boy Elvis Presley came up and started doing it and copying from a bronze man, a bronze indigenous American man, a bronze American Indian man. I forget what that brother's name is. I'm gonna play it on one thing. You can hear where Elvis is copying this guy's voice verbatim. And all of a sudden, y'all like Elvis now. You see, you didn't like the music when we was creating it and making it. It was nigga music then, but when Elvis did it, all of a sudden, I like rock and roll now. Same thing with hip hop. You Latinos, you Caucasians, you didn't like rap. I'm not talking to all of y'all. Some of y'all did from the start. Some of y'all still are pure hip hop listeners and whatnot. And y'all know good rap music, good hip hop or rap music, whatever you want to refer to it as. You know it when you hear it. Eminem is not it. He's good. I'm not going to take nothing from Eminem. He's good. He's good. But he ain't no goddamn rap god. Stop it. He's not a rap god. He is not an originator of anything. This is a American art form. It is an American music. And by American, we mean bronze American people, American indigenous people, not African Americans, not Caucasian Americans. There's no such thing. These people have a place of origin and it is not here in America. I don't care how much they try to change the history, how much they try to lie. The hell with the lie. Again, they can lie all they want to. You can't stop people from saying things, but what you can stop is people from accepting it by putting the truth out. We got to stop erasing our culture, man. Embrace your American Indian culture again, man. We need to be embracing our American Indian culture. And I don't give a damn who don't like it. We don't give a damn whether the Israelites don't like it because y'all like the African slave ship story. Like we said before, you like the African slave ship story. We don't give a damn. We don't give a damn whether the white man like it because he liked the African slave ship story too. You know, how we came in bondage shit on a damn boat like sardines. We got to tell the truth for truth's sake. And that's how we purify ourselves. We've been here harvesting this land, growing on this land, building on this land as the Mayans. And they know damn well when they came here, they saw that our people would use this land. We had homes built on this land when they came here. And they just got together, built up their numbers, got their guns up, and just took it from us. That's all. Hostile takeover. Like a corporation do. But without the guns. Sometimes. All right. What is the real reason why historical racism, against black people is not, the Caucasians, they doing something called critical race theory. They don't want to talk about historical racism anymore against so-called black people here. I'm going to tell you why. You see, history, if they don't change history, if the Caucasians, the Europeans who are here in America falsely calling themselves Americans, if they don't change the history, see, history lets people know who and what you are, and it shows your level of intelligence and evolution. If you look back at the savagery, because there's no other way to call it, that the savagery that the American indigenous people, the bronze copper colored people, falsely being called Negroes and African Americans. Now, the American Indians received at the hands of these Caucasians, and we put that work in on them too. But if you look back at that, the savagery, the barbarianism, the burning people at the stakes and lynching people and killing babies and all that, you see, they don't want their children knowing that history of how they got to become Americans. They don't want their children to know the history of how they killed people, took people's land. All the things they teach their children that's wrong. They don't, the Caucasians, the European Americans teach that stealing is wrong, right? They teach that stealing is wrong. They teach their children that stealing is wrong. Murder, killing people is wrong, right? Because it's supposed to be a Judeo-Christian country, right? A Judeo-Christian country, they're supposed to follow the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Well, they done broke all those goddamn laws. Now haven't they? They stole the land from the American indigenous people, us, not the Mongoloid Indians who crossed the Bering Straits and came over here from Asia. I'm talking about the people who were always here from South America, Central America, all the way and came in first people into North America as the Mayans. Us. Us. They broke all of those. So how can they claim to believe in some God of righteousness? How can they claim to believe in some Jesus of righteousness and all your acts are unrighteous? Because when people look back at history, you know what they're going to say about the Europeans, the Caucasians, the ones who participated in this? They're going to say, y'all savages. Wow. They're going to say, those people are savages. That's why the white man got to go to the European. I'm not even going to call them white. Because that, again, that really just means immigrant. The Europeans, they have to constantly rejudge the story up and make it seem like, oh, it wasn't as bad as it was slavery. We just forced you to come over here and work. And we, now they got to rejudge the story up and whatnot so it don't make them look bad. Because see, when history makes you look bad forever. You see, like how history makes the Greeks look like exactly what they are. Was the Greeks and the Romans a bunch of sodomites? A bunch of LGBT, ancient LGBT. That's what they were. The Greeks and the Romans were a bunch of ancient LGBT communities. That's all. Sodomites. Hey, and if that's what they want to do, fine. But it calls into question why you black fraternities are calling yourself black Greeks. I'll just leave that there because I can see y'all calling yourself setting up Egyptian fraternities or ancient Kemetic. You Negroes claim you like, you niggas claim you love, I'm going to call y'all niggas. You niggas claim you like ancient Egyptian or Kemetic culture. Why don't you set up Kemetic fraternities? Why don't you set up ancient Kemetic, why don't you set up modern day Kemetic fraternities? That would make more sense for you to do that than calling yourself black Greeks and Romans. But that's that slave mentality. Always got to be the black version of white people. That's a slave mentality. The slave master and the slave. The slave master got to follow the slave. The slave got to follow the slave master, You see? And that's what you so-called black people do by allowing yourself to be called black people and allowing people to call you African American and allowing people to come up and talk about Eminem being the rap god. Are you kidding me? Back to that. Him being a rap god. He come 30 plus years late into rap music, hip hop, and all of a sudden he a god. Same thing with Elvis. That's just them exalting another European over us and taking our stuff and doing it. And nobody's pissed about that. Nobody got a problem with that. But if you take their stuff, if you utilize their stuff, oh, what these niggas doing stealing our stuff? You stealing our stuff? You can't. Remember I said that? When they move into your area, oh, it's a free area. Everybody can live here. It's no black neighborhood. It's just a free area. Everybody can live here. They don't got no problem, no shame in moving into your areas and taking over. But when you move in their area, nigga, get out of my neighborhood. You see? I have a problem with unrighteousness. Not with black, not with white, but unrighteousness. I want people to understand that. Understand. I don't care if a black person, a so-called black person, I'm saying so-called. If a so-called black person is doing the wrong thing, I got a problem with that. If a so-called white, yellow, Asian, whatever, is doing the wrong thing, I got a problem with that. I'm against unrighteousness and lies. I'm not against black or white. I don't deal with the black and white. I deal with that which is wrong. Which is wrong. I say, the guy, John Brown, the guy who was out here fighting with the slaves and whatnot, and, leading raids and stuff like that, John Brown. I said, that's my favorite European. That's my favorite European. You know why? Because he stood up for what was right. It's not right, I don't care what race you are, to deprive people of things, to stand in people's way, to take from people, to steal from people, to kill people for nothing because you hate the fact that these people exist and you feel as though they are a threat to you, even though they're not a threat to you. People are just living their lives. Wrong is wrong. I stand up in the name of righteousness. I don't stand up in the name of black or white. I stand up in the name of right. Because, see, black people do wrong stuff, too. I'm not going to sit up here and say, because we all so-called black people. I'm sticking with my people who are righteous. Righteous people. Because a lot of you so-called black people are just as guilty as the white ones in telling these lies and misleading our people. You just as guilty. And you're going to pay just like the white ones are going to pay. The black and white going to pay. Judgment is coming. Are human beings artificial? All right. Are human beings artificial? Yeah, human beings are artificial. Why do I say that? Because anything you have to make, anything you have to create, anything where you have to take something from something else and make it something, that is artificial. Okay? Like computers and all these things, AI technology, you have to take metals and plastics and all kinds of things that are in existence, elements that are in existence, artificial and natural ones, and put them together to make communication devices, and then go to AI and computers and stuff like that. So they are artificial. Computers, all these things are artificial. Because for everything that's artificial, there's something natural that is in opposition. The natural always come before the artificial. All right. Now your humans are artificial because they were created. Who are your humans? Who is the human race? I told you, the East Indians with the straight hair, the Asians, the Caucasians, right? These are your created people who were created by a God. So let me ask you the question: if a God or a creator created these people, right, and they all look the same now, they got the hair like fur like animals, no disrespect, but they do. Because humans, again, when I say humans are animals, look at their hair. They got fur like animals. They even refer to themselves, the human race, as animal, as a species of animal. They even say it. So I'm not saying anything wrong or racist. They say it. Caucasian scientists refer to humans as a species of animal. They do. Now, we don't have that kind of hair. Remember my point. We don't got that kind of straight hair. We got woolly hair, which means we are totally different other species. Our skin, everything is different. So obviously, we come from something natural because we are older than the human race. We're the oldest beings on earth. So therefore, we can't be part of the human race. We have to be a totally other species that came before the human race. Who is the God, or the people they refer to, God that created the human race? Those people that created the human race are the natural people. The natural people, the natural race, which is the almond race, as I said, of which you so-called black people, the bronze copper colored people, you belong to that race, the first race on earth, the almond race. You created the human race, which is artificial race, and you used animal genetics to do it along with your own. That's why you have humans on the earth today. This is why they're off kind of mentally, because of the animal genetic. Real talk. They are the artificial race of people. Humans are artificial. You see, that's why they create a lot of artificial things. That's why they're off with the natural energy of the earth. You see, that's why they do things that are off with the natural energy. See, they had to learn to have a love for the earth in its natural state. They had to learn that. They don't naturally have that. That's why America was referred to as the Garden of Eden, because this was the most natural place on earth, and it was ours, all ours at one time, until the humans came here, or your Europeans and all the rest of these people came here, and they started basically treating this place like a toilet. You see, they started treating this place like a toilet, dumping stuff in the water, messing up the food, messing up everything, messing up the air, everything. Because see, when you're not natural, when you don't understand natural things, you don't have respect for natural things. You see, and that's the mentality of the human. They don't have respect for natural things. You see, and they show it every time that they don't. Even you. You would think they would want to preserve the real American indigenous culture, the real American Indian culture, and preserve the people here, because their mindset was, look, we want to be the Americans. They're the real Americans, but we want to be the Americans. So we're going to have to just go ahead and just push them aside. We can't kill them all, but we'll just push them aside, call them Negroes. We'll call them African Americans. We'll call them black people. Anything but what they really are, the American Indians, the real American Indians. You know, all the land y'all took, which brings me to my next point, reparations. Again, everybody in this country, that's how you know we're not immigrants. We didn't come from no place else. Notice everybody that came here into America was the beneficiaries of reparations, even Caucasians. The Europeans that came here into America, they were given land. They were given millions of acres of land in the southern regions all over. That's how Europeans, Caucasians got wealthy. The ones who came over here and basically settled into America, they were given land by the Caucasian European government that occupies this place and set up here. And they were given land. The land that was taken away from our people, millions and millions of acres was taken away from our people, the American indigenous people. But they want to lie and make you think it was the so-called Mongoloid Indians or the Mongoloid Native Americans. It wasn't them. It was bronze, copper-colored people, the real American indigenous people whose land was taken away from. Just like that thing in Seneca Village. You do know Central Park here in New York, Seneca Village which was once called Seneca Village, was the home of the Seneca indigenous people, the Seneca Indians. See, they want to leave that part out. They want to claim that the Seneca people, the bronze people that was there, the so-called black people, they was African American. Again, I hate that goddamn terminology. They keep saying African American. There's a brother who does a show on history. I forgot what his channel is. Brother, please stop with that whole African American thing. It makes me cringe. Seneca Village was a village in New York because most of New York was owned by the Seneca Indians. There was a tribe of indigenous people or Indians, black, so-called black, bronze, copper-colored Indians, the Seneca Indians. They had all of upstate New York. That's why you got a Seneca casino up there. Remember, I went to upstate New York. I went up there and I showed you the picture of American Indian man. And he was a what you would call so-called black man today. Okay? You can see his features. I put it up there. Right up there in Niagara Falls. Our people had all in New York, man. The Seneca Indians. And they had Central Park. They had Central Park. And then they had beautiful homes there and everything. Beautiful homes. And people owned lots there. Our people, you can look at the people that lived there. You could tell those are not Africans. These are American indigenous people. People that look like us today. You know, they lived in Central Park. And what became Central Park. Then, you know, New York State, you know, headed by the Europeans, they said they wanted a park that they could just go to and walk around and be like, so what they do, eminent domain, in other words, we're going to take your shit, take all your stuff, get out, here's a few dollars, and that's it. Which makes me laugh when people say, oh, you know, you could really own land and property under this government. You really can't. Because all they got to do is say eminent domain, get off the land. So much for what you pay. We're going to give you what you want to pay for. What if I don't want to sell? You ain't got no choice. But I thought I owned the land. You own the land until we want to do something with it. See, that's how that works. For all you people that believe you own land, that you believe your vote count, you believe all that's a load of bullshit. But y'all got to grow up mentally to understand this. This is big. See, this is grown up maturity class. See, for the people who want to believe, this is no place for you. This place is for the thinkers. This is a believer. This is a non-believer zone. We don't believe nothing here. We deal with facts, logical facts, and pure reality here. That's what I deal with. And we only want the thinkers. I only want the thinkers listening to me. I don't mind if I have a few thousand people or 1,000 people listening. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I know that YouTube will not let my numbers go beyond 1,000 because they don't want this to get out here. Because this is critical thinking right here. Real thinking. Anything that you can critically think about is real thought. I told you the truth is that which makes sense. The way we are treated in this country, the way so-called black people are treated in this country does not denote immigrants. Does not denote that we came from someplace else. It shows how we're treated here is just like how they treat indigenous people anywhere. Like shit. You the bottom of the barrel. You ain't got no rights. You see? You know, you can't own no handguns. They don't want you to own no weapons. Like how they did. You don't get to own. And so if some Europeans or whoever want to come up and shoot you or harm you or do something, you just got to eat that. You just got to take it. You can't do nothing about it. That's the mentality. And then you're left to look for justice in an unjust system. Shout out to this guy, Black Authority. This guy, Black Authority, he's funny. I watch his stuff. He'll sit up here and talk about the system of white supremacy. The guy, the Black Authority. And let me say something to you, Black Authority. TBA, Black Authority, you got the picture of Eldridge Cleaver up. I'm still wondering why you're supposed to be so pro-black and know so much about and be a black authority, but you got the picture of Eldridge Cleaver, the big sellout from the Black Panthers, even though they was all conjured up group that just pushed the whole black thing. But he was one of the biggest sellouts in the Black Panther Party, Eldridge Cleaver, who you got, the picture of the guy with the glass, who got his hands folded. I'm wondering why you still got that picture up. But anyway, he say stuff like, oh, the system of white supremacy and we got to get justice and we got to demand justice. How are you going to demand justice from a system of white supremacy that is meant to be unjust toward you? You're going to try and get these people to look out for you, and they don't even consider you a citizen of their colonized country. Because this is what this is. You're not a citizen. You're not considered a citizen of their colonized country. You're considered outside. They can make you fight in wars, though, of course. You can fight in wars. You can pay taxes, but you're not really a citizen. Not really. Because then the police can violate your rights, do what they will with you, right? They can redline your district. They can make sure you don't get loans. They can make sure you can't get no reparations, yet white people got reparations. How you think they got set up in America? Off reparations. They were given money. Even after slavery, the slave owners was giving money for their slaves that was set free. They were giving money for them. They were given millions of acres of land because the land produces, yields, crops and things like that. That's worth money. That was taken from people. Land that was stolen. Stolen property. People that were here first. Do black people really care about the real truth? I'm going to just say it like this, and this goes about what I'm saying again. No, they don't. No, they don't. Black people don't care about the truth. Black people care about what is conveniently easy to believe, easy to accept or believe. That just because something is conveniently easy to accept or believe does not make it the truth. You see, this is the problem black people got. You'll accept being black people. You'll accept being called black people and African American and all this other nonsense, all these other false identifications. You'll accept that. But you'll sit here and have a problem with me wearing this American indigenous feathered head crown and me telling you the truth and all the truth that's out here, from your Dane Callaways to your Kareem, shout out to all of them, Sister Amara Vanzetta, and everybody's bringing out this truth of who we are as the real American Indians. You got a problem with looking that up, because, or like when I said that to the Sister Erica Lachey, I said, yeah, man, we not black, we the bronze copper colored people, real Americans. She just rebuffed that like, oh, like whatever. Whatever. The truth is whatever. Reality is whatever. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Reality is our skin is not black. That's reality. She said, oh, well, can't we just come together, whatever we being called? No, it ain't whatever we being called. How you going to get together being black? How we going to get together on something, on the premise that we black? Something that's not even real. So if we're coming together on the premise of something that's not even real, then how can we really come together? That's my question. Does that make sense? Make that make sense to me. How can we come together on a false premise of being black people, being African Americans? How can we come together on a false premise and think that we're going to have real results? Make that make sense to me. The only thing that can really bond us together is people who are living in reality. True reality, not some your truth and my truth. No, we're not doing the your truth and my truth thing. It's reality. Either reality is real, pure reality or not. Pure truth or not. That means it is not subjective to me or subjective to you. It is objective, meaning it is the truth no matter who say it, whether you like it or not. Because again, people tend to make up their own so-called truths, aka lies, because they want it to be more friendly toward what they want. So of course the Europeans will make up this lie that we came from Africa and all life started in Africa and we all African. Okay, if you say that, then why ain't y'all calling yourselves Africans? If you believe that, that's more lies. And truth be told, Europeans, they got more claim to Africa than we do. Why do I say that? Because we as American indigenous people, we as American Indians, we are not connected to Africa. Is one landmass from Africa to Europe to Asia. That's all one landmass. That's all technically Africa. Even Europe, Asia, that's all. That's why the Caucasians will refer to themselves as Afrikaners. They had no problem calling themselves Afrikaners when they went to South Africa as the Dutch. Then they became Afrikaners. You see how the Caucasians, the Europeans have no problem with stepping into somebody else's area because our people been in those areas, stepping into somebody else's areas and then assuming the identity and start calling themselves whatever, just like they did with America. How you just gonna forget where you came from Europe and you just American? You see? They're the only ones that could do that. They could get to move the goalposts and tell lies and remix what they want to remix for their own being. And y'all go for this. You sit up here and go for this. You do it. Oh, that's pseudo. You making this up. Where you getting this from? They do it. Oh, it's history now. They tell lies and make up stuff, or what they call revisionist history. Oh, all of a sudden, that's how it happened. And they could put people on to teach this garbage to your children in school. Next thing you know, your children being given false teachings and doctrines and whatnot. And like we were given, we was programmed with the root story and all that nonsense, roots and all this other lies and things that were made up. Yeah, Roots was false. I said that, I told y'all the other day. I'm not going to go into that. Alex Haley was a liar and a plagiarist. You see? Yes, he was. He did plagiarize Roots, the whole Kunta Kinte part. But, you know. So, again, we got to stop going with what is convenient. What is convenient and what people want to believe because y'all lazy and you want to rely on the history book of these Europeans and these Caucasians telling you what their history is when no, that's not the history. They've been revising history since they got here. They've been changing history since they got here. They sit up here trying to make a whole civilization of bronze, copper-colored people, so-called black people, the ancient Kemites, who they call Egyptians. They sit up here and try to make them anything other than us. They try to make them anything other than the bronze, copper-colored people, the American, which is really indigenous people of America that got over there. But that's another thing. So-called black, they trying to make them everything but us when the reality is there. So what that tells you is these people have no problem with telling lies, a.k.a. promoting their beliefs and theories about things, a.k.a. just outright lying. Why? But here, like I said earlier, you can't stop people from lying. But what you got to do is tell the truth. We can't afford to live in the lie. We can't afford to live in the beliefs. We can't. Not for our children. See, you got to think futuristically. The lies that they're promoting, what does that say? What is that going to say to our children in the future? The lies they're trying to promote about us being from Africa, being Africans, being black and all that. What is that going to say to our children in the future? You see, the so-called white man, he out here, they're cleaning up their history in America. That's why they come and got Ron DeSantis up here with the critical race theory and he don't want this taught there because they don't want to make white kids feel bad and whatnot. Why not? If that's what really happened and y'all not ashamed of what you did and taking over this country from our people, taking over our lands, if you're not ashamed of what you did, why don't you want your children to know? Why don't you want it taught in schools? Why don't you tell what you really did? How you killed people, how you stood in pictures and lynched people, how you burned people because they were different from you, how sick you are. And again, if black people did the same thing to white people, I'd be saying the same thing. Because like I said, wrong is wrong. I don't care what color you are. I'm not standing up for wrong. I'm standing up for truth and righteousness. Let me see. Have so-called black people become comfortable with, being with black treatment or blackness, or I say the blackness treatment. Yeah, black mistreatment. Yeah, so-called black people have become comfortable with black mistreatment. That's why they'll sit up here and keep beefing and crying about the system of white supremacy and how they get done wrong. But they don't look to remedy things amongst themselves. So-called black people, the bronze copper-colored people, the Americans, the American indigenous people, they don't look to fix things amongst themselves. I told you the only way to fix things on the outside of the house is first by fixing things on the inside of the house. You have to fix the foundation and the mindset of the people who are in the house before you worry about the outside of the house. If you strengthen the house from the inside, then you ain't got to worry about the stuff going on the outside. You got to strengthen the house on the inside. What do I mean by that? You have to strengthen the minds of our people by telling them the real truth. Like what I'm doing. Because I'm the only one up here doing that. I'm the only one up here telling our people the real truth. Like I said, shout out to Dane Calloway and Karemio. But like I said, they could talk about the history, and that's good, but we need to talk about the future as well. We can't talk about the history without talking about the future. You see, a lot of them, these people are not, they're historians, they're not able to speak on the future. You see, because to speak on the future, you have to be linked in mentally with that. You have to be tapped into the future, soulfully tapped into the future of our people, meaning not just from the past, the present, but also the future. You have to be tapped into our people. And a lot of things that these certain people said, these guys, these historians, they just need to stick to history, man. These guys need to stick to just looking up the history because, you know, it gets into going into conspiracy and things like that. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of conspiracy talk and whatnot. But after a while, you have to give our people something solid to stand on. What we have is our American indigenous culture. What we have is our community, our American indigenous community we building. That's what we have to stand on. We ain't concerned about nobody else. We're not concerned about no black and white and no brown coalitions. We ain't concerned about that. We need to be focused on rebuilding our own culture, our own language, our own names, our own thing as real American indigenous people, as the real Americans here. You see, then you let the Europeans, they could be American immigrants because that's really what they are. They're not Americans. But see, if y'all don't stand up and say, and you allowing these people to call you African Americans, you might as well just go ahead and hand the crown over. Like how you black rappers or some old Sambo stuff, you handed over the crown to Eminem. And your music, you think they would do that to you? You think you could go in country music, white country, good old Opry music, which again ain't nothing but white blues music. That's all country music is white blues music. Okay? You ain't gonna go in there and present no artists and say, hey, this is the new, you know, because you had black country artists like Charlie Pride and I think even Fats Domino started doing country music. Charlie Pride and I forget who else. But and as much as their music was good, you had Europeans listening to their music, country white people listening to their music, but they ain't gonna never put no so-called black man up as the king of country music. Hell no. Hell no. But y'all got no problem with giving over your music, be it R&B, soul, jazz, what you hand it over to Caucasians. It's just for everybody. Like I said, it's just like the mindset. The colonizers think your shit is for everybody. They shit is for them. Your shit is for everybody. So yeah, so-called black people have become comfortable with being treated or with black mistreatment. So when I come and I say, no, we're not black people. We're actually those bronze copper colored people that are spoken about in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of American. Look up American and see what you get when you look up American. The bronze copper colored people, the aboriginals, meaning the indigenous people who were known as Americans before the Europeans came and took over that name. It's right there in the definition. So after you read that, and y'all can sit up here and take these Pan-Africanists seriously after this, you can take people like your Umar Johnsons and these people, and we're talking that we came from Africa BS. Something wrong with y'all. I need to have y'all head examined. What is the real ignorant darkness that black people are caught up in? What is the real state of darkness, the ignorant darkness that black people are caught in? Being black. Being black. That's the ignorant state of darkness that so-called black people are in. That's the ignorant state, that you actually sitting up here thinking your skin is black and that you got black skin and there's a black race and we're black people. Y'all actually on board into this program. You're really this brain stained. You're really this program to believe that your skin is black, that you're African American, that you came from Africa on slave ships and whatnot. Y'all really bought into this black thing. You're on board into the black history. You see. And people are sitting around laughing at us, laughing at black people, not the ones who are in the state of enlightenment, as I say, or higher state of enlightenment, that enlightenment say, but you people that sit around, yeah, we black people, we need some more black history in our black schools and black history and black. That's the darkness and the ignorance you fell into, because you don't even know you're sitting here on your own land. You thinking somebody stole you and brought you here. Like y'all some damn hot refrigerators or something. Somebody stole you and put you on the ship and brought you over here like a hot TV or a hot car. Somebody just stole you like you just property and just picked you up and brought you over there. Come on, man. Come on. Millions of y'all. Did that even sound right? Millions of people just got let people whip their ass, put them in chains and bring them over and then work for them. Did that even sound right? It don't sound right because it's not right. Again, the ignorance that so-called black people fell into is that ignorance of blackness, or believing that you're black. Because by believing that you're black, you let white people, those people known as white, dictate to you what your history is, who you really are, what you're supposed to be. That has to stop, man. It has to stop in 2023 because, again, you're going to raise another generation of slave-minded children. That's what you're going to do. You're going to raise another, same way that the elders was trying to stop us from calling ourselves black people when they knew that they were bronze-skinned people, copper-colored. See, the elders, they weren't in the right state of mind. They was referring to they referred to themselves as sepia-tone, bronze-skinned, copper-tone people. Our people called ourselves, and the Caucasians did. The Europeans did too. Until they decided they wasn't going to do that no more. And then we became colored. And because the copper came off and we became colored. They was calling us copper colored. Then they took off the copper and we just became colored. Then we eventually became Negroes and black and all. And you know the rest. The whole downhill history of our people here in America being made and forced into blackness, being forced into African Americanism. These are all things that were done by mental force with some help from some sellout Sambo coons who calling themselves Pan-Africanists, who got a fee from these Europeans to lie to our people. And they still doing the lying. What is real manhood? I'm going to address this and what real womanhood is, and I'm going to round it out with this. It's really sick and sad to see so-called black males still trying to live out this false bravado of what they think manhood is by being thugs and being tough and fighting with each other and busting your gun and doing all that. Me, as a person who had lived in that lifestyle, that, if you want to call it thug lifestyle, that I call it savage lifestyle. I lived in that savage lifestyle in the 90s, wild, young in the streets, misdirected, even though I always had a foundation to bring me forward again, put me in track of what I'm supposed to do. I was under that misnomer of looking up to that life, even living that street life and whatnot, that savage lifestyle, busting the gun for nothing and fight, whatever, just stealing, right? All the stuff that go along with being a savage in the streets. You see, I participated and I was wrong. And I thank Amen. I thank my ascendants that I am still here to do the work of the Lord, which is our ascendants who carry the law and the order. I thank my ascendants for, allowing me to clean myself up and prove myself worthy to receive the law and the order that will raise our people from amongst the dead. Raise our American indigenous people up from the dead. That's what we need. The soul of our people needs to be regenerated. And I thank Amen that our ascendants chose me to do this and not then let me fall down like so many so-called black men fell down. Black men in darkness, as I call you black men, because you are black males, because you are in darkness. You actually think walking around here, joining gangs, shooting each other, beating on each other, just acting like you tough, but you don't do that to the Europeans. You ain't tough. I never see you niggas be all tough, especially you rappers. You niggas are never tough on the record with Europeans or the Europeans that rob you for your damn, your royalties and your due, whatever. Give y'all them 360 deals. Ain't nobody never tough then. Right? You ain't never tough when the race soldiers come up in the blue uniforms. Ain't nobody tough then. Right? You only tough with your own kind. Let me tell you something. If you hang your hat on being a bully to your people, threatening your people with guns, talking about how bad you are, if that's what you want to hang your hat on and call that being a man, then I feel sorry for you. Because I tell you this, when you live by that gun, you will die by that gun. Because just as you think you the baddest motherfucker on the earth, it's always somebody badder than you. Always. It's always somebody more degenerate than you that will kill you. It don't take no real, 5 pounds of pressure, as they say, on that trigger. I don't know why these guys out here think they so invincible, like they can't get it. You see, a lot of these people out here think they invincible, black and white. Nobody knows the time. Nobody knows the day. Anybody can get it. You see, anybody. So don't walk around with that mentality like you a thug and you a gang. Because all that thug shit, all that gang shit is a bunch of bullshit. It's bullshit. I'm using that language. It's BS. You see, because all you doing is throwing your damn life away. Real men want to live to see their children grow up. Real men want to foster and grow families. Real men want to do real things in life. The most realest thing you could do in your life is be in your children's lives. Raise your sons and daughters. Be a husband to your wife or wives, as I have. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with a little extracurricular activity. If you can afford it. I can afford it. But anyway, little joke there. But like I said, that's what you ultimately want to do. That's being a real man. Being a real man is being there for your family, not being locked up in jail some fucking way. Raw and uncut. That's how I talk. That's not being locked up in jail some fucking way, cutting each other or stabbing or shooting each other over monkey shit, like colors and all kind of other dumb shit. This is what you sitting up here, all this tribal nonsense. You see, and who's gaining from this? The Europeans, because they got plenty of prisons to lock you niggas up. Got plenty of prisons. And like I said, you'll go to jail and you'll be caged in like a monkey, like an animal. You see, because that's the agenda. They don't want to lock up their own people. They'll lock you up though. The law don't work for their own people. They can't never, the race soldiers, they can never catch their own people. But then when it comes to you, they got the K9s out. They got the elite teams out and everything. SWAT, everything for you. And y'all never seem to be badasses when it comes to that. You gangs and y'all never get it in with the beast. You never get it in with these Europeans. Right. So much for your thug shit. And for real women. Real women don't choose to lay down with these guys. Real women don't procreate or mass produce with these type of guys who don't know what it is to be real men. Real women are reserved, and they are, what's the word I want to say? They are, what's the word I want to say? They have resolve and they have reserve, and they are, well, it'll come to me, right? Discernment. That real women have proper discernment on who they make children with, the decisions they make in life. They never allow themselves to be promoted as objects for sexual, arousal for males. Females do that, not women. There's a big difference between women and females. All females are not women, just like all males are not men. That takes a higher state of being, a higher state of thinking to achieve that title of men and women. That's why the so-called white man, the Europeans, was always calling you so-called black men. They was always referring to you as boys. Boy, and the so-called black girl. Because again, they didn't want you to be standing up as the real men in the society, as this was your society at one time. They always tried to break you down into being boys and break your women down into being girls. And meanwhile, they walking around like men telling you, you don't look them in the eye. You got to get off the street at a certain time, basically punking you out. But where's all the thugs at when that shit happens? Anyway. Oh, one last thing. This thing about these people celebrating over the death of the European woman, the cave woman who, the Emmett Till thing. I'll just say this, man. At some point, everybody gonna pass away, die, whatever, anything. Y'all really need to stop talking about that in her, because if nobody, even his family, thought about bringing justice on his killers, and you know what I mean when I say his family didn't think about bringing justice to his killers, they looked at for a corrupt system, a corrupt justice system to bring justice. His own family should have took justice. And you know what I mean by that, on his killers. If his own family didn't think enough to take justice and get with his killers and discuss what happened to his to their family member, and you know what I mean by discuss it, then I can't really co-sign that. All these people that's claim to be outraged, like I said, it's just a lot of talk and a lot of useless energy. Justice is something that can only be achieved by those who are done wrong, not by a system that's showing you that they're not in your favor at all for anything. But that's it. Questions, comments before I close out. Questions, comments. Check my messenger. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Are all worldly cultures just offshoots of Mesoamerican ancestry? Yeah, they are. Yeah, a lot of them are. The worldly cultures, I'm answering the question my wife had when my wife had the thing. Yeah, well, the ones where you see, if you notice how people took the feathers and things over into Egypt, you see the use of feathers in Egypt as you see in the American indigenous people, the American Indians, and when you see the serpent in a lot of the ancient cultures, it's all usually the same Mesoamerican culture. See, a lot of people think that culture and all this stuff started in what you call the continents of Africa, Europe, and Asia. No, actually it started over here in America, the continent of America, and we moved out to those other continents. We traveled to those places and took the culture over there. So when you see the transport of American indigenous culture or Mesoamerican culture, that's what you're seeing in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is actually a Mesoamerican culture. And it's the same people. I told you the Mesoamerican people in America are the same ancient Egyptian people. It's not tribal Africans who built the pyramids. It's Mesoamericans who made it over into Africa. Because a lot of our people from America, the Mesoamericans, went into Africa. That's how our people got there. That's why I said everybody that's in Africa that's so-called quote-unquote black is not African. Your Africans, your true tribal Africans have a certain look to them. My wife wanted me to go on about the women. I'm about to touch on that a little more. Hold on. Are racial attacks against us really a human version of going against God? Yeah, it is. It is. That is a human version of going against the Lord, not God. See, because the Europeans, they worship God. God is dog spelled backwards. Again, they worship the beast, which they call God. That's why, see, when they promote God in the society as a righteous, loving, whatever, accepting of everything, that means that God accepts their degeneracy. You see, God, they use the Europeans and all these other people in religion, they use God because God accepts and love. They teach you that God is all love, right? So that what that really means is God. I told you, love is another way of saying acceptance. When you hear Europeans say God is love, that means God is acceptance. That means that they should be able to do whatever they want and be forgiven by God, even if it means doing you dirty, taking from you and killing you and taking what's yours in the name of God. Because even when in the country, when they take your land, when they do that, they say, or they told manifest destiny, this was all done by the will of God. That just means they created this fictitious character that's supposed to be omnipresent, omnipotent, that gives them the right to do whatever they want to do. Do as thy will. Kill, steal, rob, rape, but then they all still believe in God. Notice even your most worst people, your rapists, your killers, your pedos, all of them have a fundamental belief in God and Jesus and Christianity. Why is that? How is it that degenerate people can believe in a God that's supposed to be righteous? Answer, because then God is not righteous. The Lord is righteous. The Lord, because the Lord represents law and order. That is a true sovereign ruler over mankind. That is what we're supposed to be following. That is our ascendants. The Lord is Amen, representing the Amen race, which is our ascendants. We're supposed to be that sovereign power over the entire planet that passes judgment on everybody. But see, we're not in that position because a lot of you so-called black people, you want to follow God and religion. Religion and God was created by mankind. That's their false ideologies. Okay? All right. I think that's all I see. But again, see, so I'm gonna go a little bit more on the woman thing because it's in my mind. Again, women differentiate themselves from females. Real women carry themselves different from females, and I would like a lot of young women in training, because again, that's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be women in training. As young girls, you're supposed to be women in training. But something happens, in the society between that time, from the time you become, well, I'm going to say even earlier, I was going to say from the time you become 12, 13 years old, young girls become 12 and 13 years old, when their mother is starting to allow them, and if the father's at home, is starting to allow them to be so-called, giving them more freedoms and liberties. Be careful with those so-called liberties, like letting your daughters go to their friends' houses and spending the night over other people's houses or being around family members, because those are the people that can turn your daughters, who are supposed to be on the path of becoming women, that will turn them into females. That will turn them into continual state of female. Now, again, a female is an underdeveloped woman. That's all a female is. Remember I said all females are not women. You got female animals, you got female insects. Or a female is not necessarily a woman. That's just someone who is just anatomically correct, meaning they have the vagina and breast, whatever, but that doesn't mean they're women. A woman is a higher mind state of a female. That's what a woman is. And again, the mistakes that was being pushed in the society is femalism. Femalism is being pushed over womanhood. Please understand me. Femalism is being pushed as the path for young women in training, or young women in training to go down. And a lot of them are choosing to go down that path of femalism, which you would call women's liberation, which you would call liberated female, or so-called female empowerment or woman empowerment. Is really female empowerment, because anything that tells you that you got the right to go out here and spread your legs for how many guys you feel like, until you feel like you want to get married, or cut your body open for an abortion, or basically, do all the degenerate things that are beneath that of a real woman. And they're promoting this as a form of empowerment. They're not promoting womanhood no more. They're promoting femalism. They're promoting that queendom spirit that's here in the society. There's a heavy queendom spirit in the society. And I told y'all about that on my broadcast. Real women are thinkers. Females believe. You know how females believe? Because they believe anything males tell them. They don't know. They believe anything males tell them, and they end up pregnant 2 and 3 different baby daddies and all over sloppy, all over the place. They fall for anything. Real women are thinkers, and real women value themselves. Same thing with real men. Real men don't allow themselves to be in situations that are going to cost them everything in their life. Same thing with real women. You females, you'll sit up here, give your mind, body, ass, everything over to a male who's not worth, especially you young ones. And then when he don't want to be with you no more, when you young like that, you don't wasted your life. You don't wasted your life with him. You don't threw your life away because, again, they try, this society plays on insecurities of females, talking about your body and whatnot and things like that, and telling you like the bad message they giving you. A lot of you young girls is to be like a Lizzo or somebody like that, somebody who doesn't really care about how they diet, what they putting in their body. And if you don't care about what you putting in your body, then you really don't care about what you putting in your body, if you know what I mean. And what I mean by that is, if you don't care what you putting in your mouth, you don't really care about what you ain't too choosy about what you put between your legs. And these guys that you lay down with, you see. So all this is dealing with proper discernment. How much do you value yourself? You have to put your own self on a higher state of being and carry yourself accordingly. And if anybody cannot respect you that way, because a lot of times these young girls, they get pressured into acting like females. A lot of young women in training get pressured by their peer groups, which are low-level people. They get pressured by their peer groups to act like females. You'll be going to school as a young girl and you had your friend over here, your so-called friend. Yeah, let's cut school. Let's go to this party. Let's go to these boys' houses and whatnot. And let's go and do whatever. Next thing you know, you went over there, you following her, something ended up happening to you, end up getting raped or you end up pregnant and whatnot. You laying up with somebody put something in your drink. See, it's always that female element that's trying to stop you young girls in training from becoming women. That's why you need your fathers in your life. You see, just as well as you need your mothers. Same thing with you young men. You always got some little males out here who ain't going to never evolve into men, who are going to die as males, who want to pull you off the path of manhood. They don't want you to grow into men. They want you to, because again, misery love company. They walking around ignorant. They want you to, don't go to school or don't do this or don't do that or whatever, or try, come, we need to join this gang. We need to go over here and sell some drugs. We need to go for what? Or I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to go to jail. You see, I'm going to go to, that's what they want you to do. You see, I was watching this one thing. I'm going to say this and I'm going to close out. I was watching this guy who was a drug dealer. He got in the music. He said that his mother got to a point where he was like 12 or 13 years old. He was out here committing crimes. This rapper was saying this. And he said that his mother took him to the judge, right? And told the judge at 12 years old, take him because I don't want the streets to kill him out here. And I don't want him getting killed out here in these streets. Now I'm telling this story because one of my wives was saying, I said that that's the so-called liberated black female today. Instead of her choosing wisely and choosing a real man to father her children, to be a father to their sons and whatnot, and keep them out of the streets, because she didn't choose wisely in that, she basically got pregnant from some stray dude, you know what I'm saying, who went in the boy's life, no real strong masculine role model to keep their son off that path out of trouble like how we used to have in the old school. Because, see, I was raised by my father. Even though I got into trouble later in the 90s and whatnot when I was grown, but the lessons my father taught me and whatnot, it kept me from going too far to messing my life up where I can't never come back. So I credit my father and, of course, my mother, but especially my father with being there in my life. We grew up in the projects. My father was there. He was in that project apartment. He was there. And everybody knew my father, how he walked, how he came through, how he came from work. And he didn't allow us to be in the streets. He didn't allow us to be out here selling drugs or hanging with the wrong people or going to jail. He didn't allow that at all. And I was up around all them people. I watched all my friends go to jail. I watched my friends go to jail, join gangs, get killed. I watched people I grew up with, people who I was acquainted with, get killed. And like I said, in the 90s, I ran the streets. I was in the streets. I experienced that life. So much so that I don't ever want to look back. But this lady says that the guy was saying that his mother took him to the judge and said, hey, take my son before the streets kill him. Now, instead of the liberated black female saying, you know what, I'm going to choose wisely who I'm going to have children with so I don't have to take my son to a white man and tell him to lock him up like a goddamn animal so that the streets don't kill him. See, his father needed to be in his life to say, hey, even if you ain't with your father, here, because at 12 years old, at a certain age, Women, you can't tell your sons nothing no more, especially when they get 12. Yeah, that's why the father got to constantly be in their life to keep that foot down on them, keep that foot in their ass. Like my father did. He kept his foot in me and my brother's ass. You know, he made sure we wasn't out here in the streets getting in no trouble. He said, I can't control what you do when you're grown men, but I can stop you from doing these things, messing up your life as young men. And he did. Thank you, Dad. But that's it. Let me see. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Hello? All right, so we're going to close out. Thank you for listening. We're going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. Catch me tonight on Mentellect Radio, on Blog Talk, Mentellect Radio at 10:30. Subscribe to my this High and Mighty Chalks channel, or Thoughts, which soon, and also subscribe to my Mentellect Patreon, where I got all my raw and uncut stuff on there. All right? Fade to black.